Kia ora, my name is Kayla Kaimaramawili and I'm from Rarotonga, Cook Islands.
Awesome. Okay, Kayla, so how would you describe your cultural identity or ethnicity?
So I would describe my cultural identity as a Pacific Islander or an individual. I'm from, Oceania. I am, how would they classify it, as Polynesian, from the Cook Islands with my heritage going back to Tahiti, here in Hawaii, as well as in New Zealand.
Awesome. And so would you identify yourself as Polynesian? Is that something that you like to identify yourself as? Or
Depending on where I am, I
Okay.
guess.
Mhm.
If it's in a place where people are just generally used to that kind of description, then I'll classify myself as Polynesian.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So going along with that, what is your native language?
My native language is Cook Island Maori. Um, Specifically within the Cook Islands, there are 15 different islands and each island has its own dialect. So I was born in Mangaya and I speak Mangayan dialect. But each island throughout the Cook Islands has their own language or dialect.
Awesome. And do you speak any other languages besides English? Of course?
Besides English, well, it's just Cook Island Maori and English.
Yes, no, that's awesome. And where did you learn those two different languages?
So Cook Island Maori, I learned that in our home with my parents. That was that's our first language. In our household, we only speak Cook Island Maori, at least growing up. And then when we leave the home, we speak English because that's what was taught in school, primary school growing up. And so, yeah.
Awesome. So, Kayla, what are three most important things that people should know about your culture?
Three most important things, well, things that I think are important to me. One is that we have our own language. And I feel like that makes us different because a lot of times people are like, oh, Cook Islands, you're all just one people. Yes and no. Each island has its own language, so I like to differentiate myself in that aspect. So that's important to know. Two, in terms of dancing, we're always compared with Tahitians with the hip shaking. But in the Cook Islands, we have the northern group and the southern group, and each one is different in its own way. So that's the second thing. And the third thing that I feel is very important is that our identity is deeply rooted in our culture. And so if you take that out, it kind of, you lose a part of who you are. And so those are the most three important things to me in terms of my culture.
So, a follow-up question would be, what are some ways that you feel like you've been able to celebrate your culture?
Oh, well, seeing that I am living, oceans apart from home, things that I've been able to do to celebrate my culture. One is I speak the language, and so I still kind of I practice that throughout my life. The second thing is every opportunity I get to share my culture through dancing is one way of celebrating that. I blast it on social media. I like to show people where I'm from, pictures of the beach. And during events, we wear eikatu, which is like haku here in Hawaii. And so that's one way I like to celebrate my culture.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, going along with these questions, I wanted to ask, what does tourism look like in your home country?
Okay, so tourism in the Cook Islands is the main source of our economy. And what that looks like is like here in Hawaii, people come for the beach, for vacation. Sometimes it's for educational purposes, cultural purposes, but for the most part, it's paradise. So people come for leisure, for fun.
Awesome. Do you feel that tourism in your country often celebrates your culture, or do you feel like it maybe leaves it out?
It depends, I feel, on who is coming and the purpose of their visit. I mean, because we know tourism, you know, there's different aspects of tourism. It could be like ecotourism or cultural tourism. I've seen some that embraces and celebrates the culture. You know, and it becomes educational when they publicize it on social media. But there are some where I've seen the negative impacts. And then it comes down to like cultural appropriation when they leave and all these things. And that has in some ways stigmatized or like created this image of what Cook Islanders are. And so I feel like there are pros and cons that I've seen come out of tourism. Given that.
Oh, totally. I think that there is probably two ends to that question for sure. Going a little deeper into the cultural appropriation that you've seen, could you maybe just give an example that you've seen, like someone maybe culturally appropriating something from your culture, or?
Oh wow, there's a lot. One. Maybe I'm just gonna pause it there for now.
Yep.
I'm just gonna